Brenda here from Tamarindo, and I want to personally invite you to join me for our third annual Encuentro, a restorative retreat to Puebla, Mexico, April 30th through May 4th. This is an incredible experience for badass mujeres who need a break. Immerse yourself in Puebla's cultural attractions, build community, and leave recharged with tools to thrive. Perfect if you're seeking renewal and intentional connection in a supportive and uplifting space. The dates are April 30th through May 4th in Puebla, just a couple hours away from Mexico City. Space is extremely limited. We're looking for 8 travelers. And if you bring a friend, you each can save $400. Go to tamarindopodcast.com and find Encuentro from the menu. Once again, that's tamarindopodcast.com and search Encuentro. Brenda here. We want to acknowledge the recent unjust killings by ICE of Renee Good and Alex Pretti, 2 people standing up for their community and neighbors like so many of our listeners do every day, and who were murdered for doing so. We know that this and the cruelty of ICE's actions across the country is weighing heavily on all of us. To help us, we'll start this episode with a new segment, Mindful Moments with Delsy, where she'll give us some recommendations on how we can take care of ourselves during these challenging times. After that, you'll hear us reflect on what we were thinking about, doing, etc. in 2016, and what we're leaving behind from a decade ago, and what we're wishing we could bring back. Lastly, we have a chat with actress Belissa Escobedo, who stars in Happy Place opposite Reba McEntire, and we learn a little bit about her career journey and what it means to represent the community today. Okay, with that, let's start the show. Welcome to
Tamarindo Podcast,
hosted by me, Brenda Gonzalez, a fitness coach, political nerd, and nonprofit capacity builder.
and me, Delsy Sandoval, a Guatemalan-American licensed therapist and passionate creativity advocate. Together, we're here to uplift our community through powerful conversations with changemakers, creatives, and healers.
Each week on the pod, we talk politics, culture, and personal development. Listeners call Tamarindo the Advocacy and Self-Love Podcast. Vámonos! Let's start the show! Okay, finally, our first official episode of the season. Hi, Delsy. So good to see you here.
Hi, Brenda. Look at us. We're back. Hi, everybody.
Yes, officially back. Okay, so of course, it's always a joy to see you, Delsy. That's why you hear the joy of my voice, and it's a joy to get back into the ears of our listeners. But I know that this weekend and the past, all of this year so far has been really heavy. So we're recording this on Sunday, January 25th. We know that there's been so much heaviness, but like the thing that's front and center at this moment is that there was another execution by ICE. A person named Alex Pretti was executed, basically. So, and I know that that's brought a lot of heaviness, concern. So I thought it would be nice, we both thought it would be nice to just pause for a moment and consult with Delsy, our in-house therapist and co-host here, to give us like a little bit of a, mindful moment with Delsy is what we're kind of calling this segment, just to check in and give us some recommendations on how we can manage our feelings right now that they're feeling so heavy.
Yeah, I just want to acknowledge, that depending on what everybody's got going on in their lives, seeing something like this, it doesn't matter who you are. It really influences your nervous system. Your nervous system doesn't know the difference between something horrific that's happening right then and there to you and something that's happening on your phone, right there. Your body reacts the same way. And if you're in a constant state of exposure, then you're in a constant state of being on alert and being in a threat state. That is something that weighs heavily on your body. It can impact your health, for example. And so I think for me, tip number one is like, it's okay to mitigate your exposure. Just because you don't have constant exposure doesn't mean that you don't have compassion. It doesn't mean that you don't care about what's going on. You really have to have discernment here. Choose what to watch. Choose how you get your information. You can still be informed without being flooded. So one thing that I just did is I decided to sign up for a physical newspaper. So I signed up for the LA Times. I'm going to get the Sunday LA Times starting next week. I'm doing that because I've decided that I need a break from visual imagery. So for me, watching it on TikTok, on Instagram, watching it on the news, it's the images, they haunt me, and it really is hard to sleep and to think of anything else. So for me, reading it is a much better way to stay informed. And so a tip like that, think about how you can still be informed and still feel like you're up to date without an over flooding of information. I would say that would be my first tip. I don't know, Brenda, if you're doing something like similar.
Yes, definitely. I mean, as soon as I learned about this, I know that immediately there was going to be videos. I have not watched the video. I'm purposely skipping the video. I pivoted to I do have the LA Times app on my phone. So that's something that I have been trying to do more intentionally, is like look at reputable newspapers and not just the videos, the replaying. And the other thing, as you were describing this, that I was realizing can be very triggering, is the dialogue that happens in the comments, right? The people.
Yeah.
So you don't get that when you're just reading the newspaper article, right? So I think that's such a great recommendation for our listeners, is to I love the way you said it, mitigate your exposure. You could still be informed and you can still have compassion. I love that.
Yeah. And I think also, another thing I would say is this idea of your attention being finite. Think of your attention as a resource, right? The algorithms are built to keep you scrolling. Everything is designed in real time to keep you activated, keep you angry, keep you going, not because things aren't really happening, right? But the way in which it's presented to you, a lot of times it keeps you hooked. And so it's important to know, if you're in a constant state of watching graphic content, that's going to really shape the way that you view the world, the way that you view your life, your sense of safety, your sense of self, and your ability to help and support and step up during important moments in organizing, for example. And so I would say part of self-respect is curating what you're watching. So if you can mute graphic content, if you can go on, the places where you get your news and make sure that you're adding the keywords that you don't want to see, the things that you need a warning for, not because we're running away from what's happening or because we're choosing to exercise the privilege of not understanding what's happening, but rather as a way of saying, okay, there is a finite amount of time that I'm going to be engaging in this content. And so I'm logging off before nighttime. I'm setting boundaries around when I check the news, for example. So I would say that's my second tip. And I think, Brenda, you do this. I know, for example, if I text you at a certain time, I might get a thing on your phone that says that you've logged off for the day and things like that. I think that's what we're talking about when it comes to engaging nonstop in the world.
Yeah, those are all good tips. The other thing that I've seen, it's like sometimes you get good stuff on the internet, like some tips and suggestions, and it's like, maybe let this be a moment of action, like shifting to action. And it could be, this is the other part, it's like, let's not get overwhelmed because we're not doing everything. So if it's one thing that I did out of this weekend, like I've given to so many campaigns here and there, but this pushed me to give on a regular monthly basis. And I chose Chirla as like a way to provide some sort of support to defending immigrants. So choosing something that feels accessible to you to take action.
Yes, let's talk about action. I like that. Let's talk about action. Because I think if we doom scroll all day, if we're watching these videos over and over, and we're putting ourselves in a state of alarm and emergency, right? I think that what that does is give the idea that this is sort of like short-lived. And I think we all know at this point that we're in this for the long haul. This is not going to be a one and done. This is going to be a long battle, right? I equate this to, a resurgence of the civil rights movement. This is going to take time. And we don't need people to burn out in 6 months because they're overwhelmed, right? Because their bodies have shut down, they're sick, they're exhausted. We need people to keep going. We need people to organize. We need them to continue to donate, to continue to be able to have the resources to support what we want our world to look like, what we want the United States to be like. And in order to do that, you have to be able to think of yourself as somebody that needs to sustain this kind of energy. And in order to do that, you need to rest. So I think the main thing here is, let's get rid of the guilt around having moments of joy, about having moments of rest, about re-engaging in the things that you enjoy and you love. Like that guilt that stops us from doing it, that's actually counterproductive to what we're trying to accomplish here. So I invite you to start to allow yourself to enjoy those moments again, so that we can create some sustainability in these movements.
Yeah, that's also very good. Everything you say reminds me of some of the things I've seen. Like there's like a design, a little graphic design of a cute little character holding on to both the whimsy and the anger. Like you can hold both.
Yeah. I mean, we talked about this before, and we're seeing it in Minneapolis and all these other places, but in Portland, we talked about it before, the people in the suits and dressing up in character costumes and so on. There's just so much power in holding on to this kind of whimsy and joy in moments that are so horrific, like what we're living through.
And speaking of moments of joy, so something that's been a trend has been 2016. Like looking back at 2016, people have been resharing pictures. It was 10 years ago, right? I think that's the trigger, is that it was a decade, looking back at a decade ago. So we thought it would be fun for this first opening of our season here, as we're still in January, we're still in the new year, to just think back in that year, like 2016. And I'm going to ask you a couple questions, Delsy, and I will chime in as well. So let's think back to 2016, Delsy. And I want first to tell us a little bit about where you are in 2016. Where were you in 2016? And how are you spending most of your time and most of your money?
Yes, 10 years ago. It's such a fun exercise to think about this, because there are so many years of my life that I consider to be really messy and I consider to be like kind of cringy. But 2016, luckily, is not one of those years. I was very proud to look back on 2016. At the time, I was 28 years old, and I had been living in New York for a little over a year. And I was living in Harlem, and I was working in Brooklyn at that time. And what I was doing was I was running this community center that was at the base of public housing. So I was running like open mic nights, basketball tournaments, like dances and community events, college prep stuff and games for kids. It was like this whole world I was creating recreationally for the people of that community. And what I was spending my money on, interestingly enough, were two things. One, I had this epic dream that I was going to quit my job, put all my stuff in storage, get rid of everything I own, and travel through Southeast Asia backpacking. That was my dream. So I was going to do it for as long as my money would hold me. And I thought I was going to live on like, $1 a day, this kind of thing. So I saved every penny I had toward this dream at that time, except for the money I spent on dancing. So let's talk about that.
That's true. Went to dancing.
In 2016, I became obsessed with professional salsa dancing.
Oh, wow.
I danced 3 times a week, all the time. I did conferences, performances. I had a dance partner. We practiced all the time. And I would buy these like professional shoes, professional outfits, and, the makeup and all the things, because I wanted to be as legit as possible. I will say I was not the best dancer, but I was my best version of dancing, let me tell you. And that's where my money went at that time.
Oh my God. I love it. Salsa is such a big thing, right? Any city you can find like a place to dance salsa any day of the week. And I also like the good thing, I guess I don't know, good or bad, but I think most salsa dancing is still gendered, right? There's still like the man leading. So if you could just be an okay dancer, and as long as the lead spins you around.
Yes. And can I talk about my dance partner for a
Yes,
second?
please.
This person, young Dominican man, you would see that he was so, really into video games, really nerding out all the time, comic books, very calladito, like didn't really say much, like very kind of nerdy guy, like we would be friends. But when the salsa music came on, there was a fire within this
I
person.
can imagine just like a
It was like,
changing of the face.
yes, something turned on and there was all kinds of swag. And I was like, I want to be this person. That's how I felt.
The
And so we
swag.
quickly became, BFFs.
I love it. I love it. Okay.
You
So
do?
I'll tell you about where I was and how I was spending my money. So 2016, we were living in downtown LA, working in downtown LA,
Wow.
and having a very New York experience in Los Angeles. So, probably because of where we were and the age, 10 years ago, we did do, I'm thinking about where a lot of my money went. It probably went to a lot of happy hours. It was pre-pandemic, obviously. And working in a professional setting, I was working for what was then called the National Council of La Raza, NCLR. It changed its name to Unidos US. So I was also very happy and proud about where I worked, right? We were on the front lines defending our community. And it was such one of the hardest parts of that year, as we all know, was that it was the election, right? The election. And but at least I felt like, okay, my job, I'm aligned to the cause. I feel good about where I'm at. It's heavy because we're playing defense, but it just felt like really important. And so so that was where I was and what I was doing. So here downtown LA and living the New York life in downtown. Okay, so I want to know what is one thing you're glad is stuck in 2016? Like you didn't bring it with you today.
What is it that I'm glad? I'm going to say conventionality. So up until that point, that was a very pivotal moment for me that year. And I think the reason it was because when I first moved to New York in 2015, I was really sad and like having a difficult time adjusting to the new. I miss my family. I miss my friends, my life. So I didn't let myself be like changed by New York. I was still holding on to the LA Delsy, right? But in 2016, I got adjusted and I let myself be open to being changed by the experience. And so what happened was that the conventionality I had grown up with, I started to strip away after that year. So I had been, following the script. I had gone to school the way I was told to do. I'd gotten the education, the degree. I followed the career path that was appropriate. I dressed the way people expected me to, dated kind of who I was expected to date. There was a lot of conventionality happening for me up until that point. And I think that year, really, I started to shift in the way I started changing all kinds of things from that point forth, different kinds of ideas of success, for example, or like started trying to own my own business, started trying to travel more, alternative ways of living kind of thoughts. And I started exploring non-monogamy. I started dating across genders. There was just all these things that were more like curiosity, self-trust at that time that I had a hard time doing when I was really like next to my family, right? Like adjacent to the way I had grown up. So I think conventionality I'd like to leave in 2016.
Yeah, leaving that in the past.
Yeah.
Sounds like such an important year, right?
Yeah.
Well, I was catching myself, so I was about to say it, so I'll say it now. But I think one of the things that was really hard about 2016 was the election. There was so much fighting online, and the worst of it being in like within, like when we were trying to get the Democratic nominee, and even when we had one, seeing the rhetoric from the right being regurgitated by my friends on the left, it just felt like so heavy and difficult and disgusting because we were so much more online. Because yes, of course, we're still very much online, but we reached the point in the 2026 where there's almost like this breaking point, right? As we were just talking about, we're starting to really notice the damage of being so online. But back in 2016, we were so online, and I'm so glad that those debates are not as intense. I mean, they're reemerging now because of the way things are, but at least it's not like internal, and we're so much more. We're better equipped at navigating or being aware of the damage. So yes, I would say the less controlled, super online, disgusting fights can stay in 2016.
Yes, I agree with that. Totally agree with that.
And then if there was one thing that you'd like to call back from 2016 and call it to the present, and it could be like something you thought about yourself or something in the world or whatever, what would be one thing you'd wish we kept doing or it kept existing?
Oh my God, a couple of things. I think like one, I'll name two things. One is like confidence. Like when I looked back on this year, I really reflected on it. I saw pictures of myself from this time y todo. I realized like there was this kind of feeling I had that I could do anything. I really felt it, and I really embraced it. Like I started a nonprofit that year and I did all these things. Like I just really felt I could do anything. And I think that this year in particular, because I just had a child 6 months ago, postpartum, I'm really struggling with that confidence. Like there is like a self-esteem thing happening with me because I don't recognize myself. There's so much that's changed in such a short amount of time that I feel a little self-conscious. And looking back on 2016, I'm like, I want that again, And I know a lot of moms who say like, no, my kid gave me so much confidence. I'm more confident now. I'm not there yet. Maybe I'll get there, but I'm not there right now. And so I think I want to feel that way again, that level of empowerment. And I'm working on it. And I would say the second thing is, I don't know if you remember this, Brenda, but the friendships were solid in 2016. I had a friend group. We went out all the time. Friendships were so solid. Like you had a group of friends. We went out. We had a great time. There was no question. Every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. It was like, what are you doing? Yeah. What are we doing? Where are we going? Like everyone knew that we were going to get together and we are going to have the time of our lives. And I'm kind of, I miss that. I kind of miss that now.
Yeah, I'm right there with you as like the thing that I look back fondly. And I think a lot of it just has to do with the way work was, because so many of us like work 9 to 5 outside, and we all put on clothes, right? and had to go to like a place of work. And so there was a 4 of us that hung out all the time because it was always happy hours. It was so easy. Like after work, let's all get together. Let's vent about this. Let's vent about that. And it just feels like a world that is no longer here, which in a way it's good, right? Because I don't need to be going to happy hour all the time. And I certainly love being able to work from home. But yes, there was something about that era and that time that there's a group of us, 4 of us that hung out all the time. And I do kind of miss the fact that the same folks, I could rely on them being available and we would be out and about.
Yeah.
Well,
we're scheduling like 3 months in advance, but
seriously, 3 months in advance.
Are you free in March?
Exactly. Yes, totally right. Yeah. Are you? Yeah. This particular Friday, 5 weeks from now. Yes. That is totally what it is now. Yes. Well, okay. This was super fun. Just kind of thinking back at what we were thinking. Now, before we go on with the continuation of this podcast episode, I do want to take a minute to just do another little plug for Encuentro. As you all know, we are doing this retreat to Puebla, Mexico, and Wendy, who's going to facilitate the sessions, and we're doing this together. We have decided that it makes sense to extend our early bird discount through February. So that means that you can still apply right now And if you commit by the end of February, you can get 15% off, which does translate to hundreds of dollars of savings. And as you know, if you bring a friend, the two of you can save $400. So please take this opportunity to go to our website at tamarindopodcast.com. Go on to the little menu at the top. You'll see Encuentro, and that's where you can find all the details. And of course, we'll have the link to that in the notes of this episode. Okay, let's take a break. All right, we're back from break, and we're going to do our rapid fire questions right here. So, Delsy, you know what we do. What is your matraca, person, place, thing, concept, whatever that you're celebrating?
Yes, this is going to be an abstract one. I would like to give a matraca to old faded tattoos, to old piercing hole on people's faces. I just want to say, I love when you are engaging with someone and you get to kind of get a glimpse into their past, into who they were when they were young people. The other day, I went to go get an ultrasound and all this kind of stuff for like a medical situation. And I'm there, and the person who's helping me is like this older, very professional person. But I can see all of the dope 2016 tattoos all over their body, some of the like holes on their face where the piercings used to be. And you can just get a glimpse of what this person was into, what they were like how cool they used to be. And I just love that. It just brings me so much joy to like be able to get a little bit of someone's story that way. And so matracas to all of those old faded tattoos that kind of bring us back a little bit.
Yes, the faded tattoos. That reminds me of my favorite high school teacher, rest in peace, Mr. Rupp. He was an old hippie, and so he always wore long sleeve, but every once in a while he would roll it back and you would see these mushroom tattoos.
Yes.
It makes me think of him. He was such a great guy, and maybe like 10, 15 years after high school, he was in a horrible motorcycle accident, but he was so loved. Like so many of us that were touched by who he was were obviously distraught when we learned about his passing. But so thinking of you, Mr. Rupp. By the way, I dressed up as him for Halloween one year. So funny.
Oh, wait.
So let's see. My matraca is a small one. It's to the word smidge. I really like that as a unit of measurement. Like just a smidge. It's better than a tad. It's better than a little. It's just a smidge. I think it's great. I love it. My appreciation for, a smidge.
I think it's a good word. I agree with you. I'm with you.
I like that. It's a cute one. Okay. What goes in la basura for you?
Okay. Well, what is going on with folks who don't humor me with my jokes, guys? What's going on with people who don't
Is this thing on?
Like tough crowd. What's going on? I don't know if it's like, maybe I have poor comic timing. Perhaps I no sé, but I feel like people don't understand my jokes. I don't know if it's like a thing where coming from New York to LA, there's just a different culture of the way people interact. But what happened to the little joke, guys? Okay, let me tell you. I went to get this ultrasound, right? It's like a neck ultrasound. We're doing this. It's the most weird experience, Brenda. I'm sitting there.
Oh, yeah. So it's on your neck?
Yes, like the gooey stuff on my neck. She's telling me to turn my head. It's like an awkward situation. So when it's over, I'm like, oh, so it was a good neck, huh? Oh yeah, so it looked like a regular neck, right? Like everybody's neck, right? Like I started making jokes about like, thank you, Brenda, thank you. And she looks at me like stone faced, and she's just like, "Excuse me," and I said, "Oh, it's just like you saw another neck today, huh?" Like I just doubled down, but I doubled down.
Like, this is a good one, right?
Yeah.
She's probably like, I'm not allowed to say.
And then she's like, you'll have to consult with your doctor because I'm not allowed to say what's normal, because then I'll get in trouble. And so she starts explaining to me like why she can't diagnose my neck. And it's like, I just dropped it because I was like, okay, she clearly either doesn't want to play with me because she's tired, or my comic timing was off, and it sounded like I was genuinely asking her for medical advice. Or I don't know qué pasó, but I was like, what is going on? I remember that everywhere I went and everywhere my parents went, we messed around, we played, we made things fun. And it just felt like everything's just so serious, guys. And you know what? I'm going to so many of these doctor's appointments. Somebody play with me. Okay.
Well, I love that you're bringing that humor to those situations, because they can be not fun at all. So
Yeah.
So my basura goes to eyeliner. I like to wear eyeliner, but this specific situation with the use of eyeliner, like you do a perfect eye on one eye, right? You're like, oh, I nailed it. That's great. And then you go to the other one, and it goes like, oh shit, it went a little thick. So then you have to fatten the other one, and then you're like, oh no, I went too thick. So then you go back to the other eye. So what was supposed to be like just like a little line is now like covering half your lids, you know? So just when that happens, that goes in la basura. This
is a very relatable problem. We're talking to mostly Latinas here. So this is a very relatable issue. And it's a very millennial issue from what I understand. And I've tried to be like, you know what, I'm going to not wear my eyeliner today. And let me tell you guys, it's not going to work. I don't feel like myself, and I'm going to need my eyeliner.
I know it makes I feel like it makes a huge difference. I will say back to things that we should leave in the past. I had already left this way, by 2016, I had left this, but in my early 20s, I definitely put eyeliner all the way around, and it's cool, but it's a little too dramatic for your everyday.
Yes.
So
yes,
I'm glad that
agreed.
I at least no longer do all the way around like for my everyday. That's a little too much.
Yes, I'm going to send you a photo, Brenda, because I'm with you.
Because the cat eye was like really big. Like, oh, a smoky eye. That was all the thing.
Smoky eye.
Yeah, how about the smoky eye? Okay, what is your inspiración this week?
My inspiración actually involves you. You were there. Brenda and I had high tea together.
Oh my God, lovely.
And if you don't know what high tea is, please look it up. It is essentially a tea time, but it with all the stops. Somebody comes out and makes these little cucumber sandwiches, and there's all these different kinds of teas and different kinds of sugar and the whole deal. And I think what it did for me was that just like, it is the epitome of taking a moment and enjoying that moment. Because it's tea, guys, right? It's having a cup of tea, but it really isn't, because you're saying, I'm going to honor this specific time as like a mindful exercise of having this tea and sharing this moment with this person. It was such a beautiful experience. My son was there.
Yes, I was about to say, tell them about the special guest.
Yes, my son was there. And for some reason, he found the waiter really funny, and he was cracking up every time this person came by. And we were just having the time of our lives, having tea and chismeando, you know, and I was like, this is everything. And it made me want to purchase some things in my house so I can pretend to have high tea all the time.
It was so lovely. And we were spilling the tea, man. We were getting in there.
We
And also it was so lovely to be with a celebrity, AKA your son, because like everyone was like, oh my God, like just our waiter was in love with him. That's why he was making faces, because the waiter was just like so engaged with him. And even the person like taking the plates away was so engaged with him, and the table across, like I just love how like people were so enamored and engaging. It was so sweet.
Yeah, it's so beautiful. He gets so much love, and he was into it.
Yes, he was into it. He was into it. So yes, that was so much fun. I ditto that inspiración. And then I have another one. So for today's inspiración, we are going to pivot to a mini interview with Belissa Escobedo, a Mexican-American actress known for her roles in Blue Beetle. She basically stole the show on in that movie, Hocus Pocus 2. And right now she's in a sitcom called Happy Place. And so she's going to tell us a little bit about her career journey and also about her current role as Isabela in this show, Happy Place, which is opposite Reba McEntire, which is pretty cool for this LA homegrown actress that you're going to hear about. So let's pivot to our chat with Belissa. Hi. Okay. Well, Belissa, it's so wonderful to have you on. Let's start with how you got started into acting and the power of community theater.
Yes. Um, so I got started, I mean, professionally, it wasn't until a bit later, but my first play was in middle elementary school. It was Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, and I played Grandpa Joe. And that was the first time I ever, even tried to act or do anything. And I immediately just had a love for it. And my parents said, that I was just a natural up there. But at the same time, we didn't come from a community that had a lot of arts. I went to a middle school that didn't have a drama program, so I had to seek the art out in my community in other ways, because it wasn't presented to me. So I went straight to, I was in Whittier at the time, and I started doing community theater, and then I found Los Angeles County High School for the Arts, which is one of the only public performing arts high schools in LA. And I just told my parents, like, hey, I want to audition for this school. And they were like, okay. And, they're very great. My mom and my dad, they drove me like an hour every morning for 4 years to go to this school, because they knew how much it meant to me. And at that time, they believed in me. And that meant everything. And I wouldn't be here had they not made those sacrifices. And then from there, I am a college dropout. I dropped out of college and moved back. And that's when I really found my footing in Boyle Heights with Casa 0101, Josefina Lopez's theater. And it was very kismet because Josefina Lopez, Real Women Have Curves, was the first time I ever saw myself on screen. Like, my whole life I've been hearing, you could play America Ferrera's daughter, and like, oh my God, you look just like her. And I love it. And so to end up working with the creator, the mother of that, was so monumental for me. And eventually they helped me get my foot in the door. They helped me get my first headshot, got me in the room for the ABC Discover showcase. And all through there, I got my agent and, my manager, and things started picking up. But none of that would have happened had it not been for my community and for my family. Like, it was not an easy path, but like everybody pitched in to help me in some way, somehow.
Yeah, well, thank you for giving us that background. And when you mentioned America Ferrera, I think, wow, that would be a dream. Let's put it
Total
out in the
dream.
universe. Let's see this movie with her as your mom. I would love to see that. I think that's fabulous. Well, I mean, you mentioned, how your community is something that fuels you. It's something that you've mentioned, community arts and all of this. What are your thoughts right now about the community? How everything, I mean, look, there's no dancing around it. Our community is under attack. How does that influence or inspire your work as you're representing in one way or another? There's another Belissa out there that's looking at you and thinking of you're there, America. So how does that shape the way you approach your work?
It's such an important honor to have right now, and it can be daunting, only because I want to do so much with the visibility that I do have right now in such a pivotal time. And I can't do it all as much as I want to. So I think for me, it's really been finding community action in other ways and helping the other stories. Like, okay, well, maybe I can't tell this story for whatever reason, but I'm going to help this person get that story told. And so that's been a lot of how my work has kind of changed, going more behind the scenes and being like, because that's what I'm realizing really matters, not just in front of the camera, but in all the positions behind. And I am very, very, even with the writers at Happy's Place, I had a few meetings with them just as things were getting as they are now. Because I think it's so important, and I also take it very seriously. I'm very careful of what I say, and how it can be taken for our community. And I don't take it lightly that our show is very universal in the US. And so, yeah, I've talked to the writers, and I have told them about how much it means to me and how much I hope it means to them, to take it very gently and to take our community with care and love.
And like this show is a comedy, and I really do feel that like sometimes comedy or lightness could be a way to call people in, and then subtly they're learning, And so I think that's a really great approach. So let's talk a little bit about Happy Place. Tell us about what this show is and your character. Speak about that a little bit.
Yeah, so Happy's Place, it takes place in Knoxville, Tennessee. And I play Reba's half-sister. Had no clue the other existed, we didn't know about each other. And Isabella, she's fresh out of college, fresh out of school with her degree, and she's still searching for her identity. There are parts of her that she feels there are holes, mostly in community. I think that's always been the root of her loneliness, is she's only ever really had her mom. So yeah, she shows up to this place, and she's got all these kooky characters to, make friends with. And she definitely steps on some toes in the beginning. But in this second season, we kind of get to see her as she's already in the groove of Happy's Place.
Yeah. And are you identifying with that where you are in your life presently?
Oh, you mean like being on the show? Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I think Isabella and I are different people at our core, but it's been so fun playing someone so like, she just reminds me of like a flower child. Like she just could skip through the meadows, and like, she's very funny. Sound of Music.
That sounds lovely. And where can people catch the show, and what time? Give us all those details.
It airs Friday nights at 8 on NBC, and then you can watch it the next day on Peacock. We've got season 1 and a few episodes of season 2 already streaming. So
lovely. Okay, so I have 2 surprise questions for you.
Love.
Well, I guess one is a series of questions, but the first one, and you might have to think about this a little bit, but my co-host and I, Delsy, we did this fun little exercise, and we kind of thought about what our perfect Sunday in LA is, because we know that you are in LA, you're from LA. So what would be a perfect Sunday for you?
Perfect Sunday for me would probably be an early hike, either at the El Prieto Trail or the Nike Hill Trail, because that one's by my mom's.
Okay, I don't know either of these trails. I'm going to write these down.
They're good. A breakfast burrito from Pharaoh's, and then probably Olvera Street. I love Olvera Street. Yeah.
That sounds perfect. And you could probably only fit in 3 things because it's LA.
Because of LA and the traffic. Exactly. So that was the day.
Yeah, that sounds great. Okay, and then we like to do these rapid fire questions with our guests. Anything that comes to mind, there's no right or wrong answer. The first question is, what is something you're celebrating, or something like, it could even be like an everyday thing that is your joy? What gets your matraca is what we call it here.
I love organizing. I love getting organized. I love my little planner. Just every day I'm in there. So yeah, that's been bringing me a lot of joy.
Yes, I really do. I don't know if you identify with this, but I love the sound of an email swoosh.
Yes.
Like I got it out of the way. Get out of here.
It's such a like.
I love
Done.
Perfect. Okay, and then opposite that, what goes in la basura? What is something you are done with? You're canceling? Trash.
Ooh. I'd say, and I'm saying this, but I'll probably re-download it. Instagram. Get it out. Get it out. Social media.
Yeah. Good to take breaks. If you can at least take a break.
The breaks are always needed.
And what about it? Like, what about it feels like trash to you?
I think I mean, us as humans, we are constantly comparing ourselves. And Instagram, any social media, everybody's putting their best foot forward. You're showing the best parts of your life, and no one's showing their bad days. And so when you're having a bad day and you're looking and you're seeing everyone's good day, it can feel like, well, what am I doing wrong? And, and I've noticed that when I'm not there, I'm much more content with where I'm at in life.
Yeah, I like that. I like that. I feel like it's like being in the real world above,
yes.
looking up. Oh, it's really quite lovely. Okay, and then lastly, what is something that's giving you inspiración, like something that's inspirational for you?
Our community, every day, every single day. Yeah. The resilience.
Well, perfect. I agree. The resilience on top of it all, it is really, really, we need each other. And so I agree.
Yeah.
I agree with that being the inspiración. Well, wonderful. This was a great mini chat with you. We look forward to catching the show. And thank you so much for stopping by.
Yes, thank you for having me.
Take care.
You too.
All right, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that incredible conversation and were inspired by it. We're always proud when somebody's homegrown and doing their thing. And that's the end of our first episode of our new season here, 2026. We're so excited to bring it to you. If you like what you hear, don't forget to tell a friend, leave us a review, and most importantly, please take care of yourselves. These are trying times. We're aware. We care about you. Saludos a la familia.
Yes, y ponte un suéter. Ciao. Bye. Tamarindo Podcast is hosted by Brenda Gonzalez and Delsy Sandoval. We're also the show's executive producers. Jeff Ricards wrote our theme song, and Sonoro Media's Karina Riverroll provides production support. If you like what you hear, please take a few minutes to rate and review Tamarindo Podcast or share this episode with a friend. It really helps us grow. To get in touch with us, find us at tamarindopodcast.com. Thank you for listening.
Sonoro.